The Hartwells, Jaden, a captivating 45-year-old investment banker, and Karen, a 42-year-old art gallery curator, embodied success and elegance. Their expansive five-bedroom residence, with its immaculate lawns and high-end vehicles, evoked envy in their neighborhood. For a decade and a half, the Hartwells stood as community pillars. They threw extravagant parties, contributed generously to local charities, and actively participated in the country club. Their two children, Penelope and Atticus, thrived in their private school and extracurricular pursuits. To outsiders, the Hartwells seemed to live the American dream. Yet beneath this flawless exterior, trouble stirred. In the spring of 2023, cracks began to show, unveiling a saga of betrayal, sickness, and vengeance that would rock the community's core. A chain of events ensued, leaving friends, family, and neighbors doubting all they believed about the Hartwells. Jaden and Karen's love story commenced in the fall of 2003 at Northwestern University. Jaden, a senior in finance, first noticed Karen, a junior in art history, at a campus art exhibit. Her eyes sparkled as she eloquently discussed an abstract piece to a captivated audience. Captivated by her intellect and beauty, Jaden approached her as the crowd dissipated. He introduced himself, slightly stammering. Karen, drawn to his sincere interest and sharp wit, found him charming. They conversed for hours, losing track of time as they discovered shared passions for travel, fine dining, and classic literature. Their courtship was a blend of romantic gestures and stimulating conversations. Jaden won Karen over with surprise picnics in the university's botanical gardens. Late-night study sessions turned heart-to-heart talks, and weekend art scene explorations. Post-graduation, Jaden secured a prestigious investment firm position, while Karen pursued her master's in art curation. Despite hectic schedules, their bond grew. They championed each other's aspirations, celebrating victories and soothing setbacks. In the spring of 2008, Jaden proposed to Karen atop the Willis Tower at sunset. He arranged a private dinner in the sky deck, surrounded by city lights. Overwhelmed, Karen instantly said yes. Their wedding, held the next year at the Botanic Garden, was a grand affair merging Jaden's luxurious taste with Karen's artistic touch. Gathered loved ones marveled at the couple's perfect synergy. In their marriage's early days, joy and ambition reigned. Diligently they worked, saving and advancing careers. Jaden ascended the corporate ranks resolutely, while Karen carved her niche in the competitive art realm. In 2011, Penelope arrived, followed by Atticus 2 years later. Parenthood brought fresh challenges but fortified their union. Together they navigated sleepless nights and diaper changes, their love intensifying daily. To all, Jaden and Karen Hartwell embodied perfection, destined for lifelong happiness. As years passed and successes mounted, nuanced shifts surfaced in their relationship. Around 2018, initial fissures appeared in their seemingly flawless life, coinciding with Jaden's substantial promotion. His vice presidency at the firm brought a significant raise but demanded more time and focus. Karen, who had reduced her gallery work to raise their children, found herself increasingly isolated. Intimate dinners and weekend escapes, once common, grew rare. Jaden's absences, attributed to late office nights and frequent business trips, became norm. Initially, Karen sought understanding. She immersed herself in volunteer work and children's activities, reasoning that Jaden's career dedication benefited their family. Yet as months turned into years, she couldn't dismiss the sense that something fundamental had altered between them. Friends noticed tension at social events. Jaden and Karen no longer drew towards each other naturally. Playful exchanges turned into polite, nearly formal interactions. Karen's smile, once luminous in her husband's presence, now seemed strained and fragile. Karen attempted to mend the divide, arranging romantic evenings and family outings, but Jaden seemed perpetually distracted. When she voiced concerns, he brushed them off, attributing his behavior to work stress. As 2022 waned, Karen couldn't ignore her gut feeling any longer. Something was amiss, transcending typical busy life stresses. Unbeknownst to her, the true magnitude of her marital strife was about to unveil itself devastatingly. On a crisp autumn evening in September 2022, the seeds of the Hartwell marriage's demise were planted. Jaden attended a charity gala at the Art Institute, an event Karen would typically accompany him to. However, she stayed home with an ailing Atticus, leaving Jaden to represent their family alone. There he first saw Viviana Reese, a 32-year-old rising financial analyst recently transferred to a rival firm's office. Viviana was everything Karen wasn't: young, ambitious, and free from family obligations. Her elegant black gown and confident air captivated Jaden instantly. At dinner, they found themselves at the same table, and as the night unfolded, Jaden was drawn to Viviana's keen intellect and deep financial insight. Hours passed in conversation, effortlessly shifting from market trends to personal stories. For the first time in years, Jaden felt a spark, an echo of the passion he'd once known. As the gala ended, they exchanged business cards, a lingering touch sparking a connection. Jaden assured himself it was merely professional, yet thoughts of Viviana persisted long after he returned home. In the following weeks, Jaden and Viviana met regularly under the pretense of networking and potential inter-firm collaboration. Coffee meetings morphed into working lunches, then after-work drinks. Each time, Jaden shared more personal details, confiding in Viviana about his home frustrations and job pressures. Viviana, attracted to Jaden's power and success, saw a potential mentor and perhaps more. She listened sympathetically, offering understanding and support Jaden felt he lacked. Professional and personal lines quickly blurred. A late-night strategy session at Viviana's apartment ignited their first kiss. Overwhelmed by desire and the thrill of the illicit, Jaden crossed a line he'd never thought he would. Guilt and exhilaration intertwined as he drove home that night. He told himself it was a one-time error, that he would end it immediately. But as days passed, he found himself unable to resist Viviana. A chance encounter was rapidly evolving into a full-blown affair, one that would bring catastrophic repercussions for all involved. In January 2023, as Jaden's involvement with Viviana deepened, Karen received news that would shatter her world. What she'd initially dismissed as fatigue and stress was far more grave. After numerous tests and a biopsy, Karen was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Alone in the sterile exam room, her mind spun as the oncologist gently outlined the treatment plan. Numb, she barely heard the doctor discuss chemotherapy, radiation, and survival rates. In that moment, she yearned for her husband's presence, but Jaden was unreachable, his phone diverting to voicemail. Upon sharing her news with Jaden that evening, his response blended shock and what Karen perceived as aloofness. He embraced her as she wept, whispering comforts, yet she couldn't dismiss the feeling that his thoughts were elsewhere. She attributed his detachment to the stress of absorbing the diagnosis, never imagining the true cause of his inattention. The ensuing weeks brought a flurry of appointments and choices. Karen immersed herself in exploring treatment paths and support networks, resolved to confront her fight with bravery. Jaden escorted her to medical visits and arranged additional aid for the children, but a tangible strain hung between them. Internally, Jaden grappled with remorse. Karen's illness timed tragically, coinciding with his deepening affair with Viviana. He felt torn between wifely duty and escalating emotions for his lover. The pressure of sustaining his dual existence while aiding Karen through her sickness began to exact a toll. As Karen readied for her initial chemotherapy round, she sought Jaden's emotional backing, hoping to reunite with her spouse amidst this life-changing ordeal. Yet the man once her steadfast support now seemed remote and inaccessible. Little did she suspect, the worst of his treachery was still to come. With winter thawing into spring, Jaden Hartwell straddled two disparate lives. By day, he played the devoted husband, joining Karen for chemotherapy sessions, overseeing the household and upholding a veneer of normality for their children. By night, he transformed into Viviana's ardent paramour, escaping into a realm of exhilaration and liberation from familial burdens. The guilt of his deceit, amplified by Karen's ailment, gnawed at Jaden. He buried himself in work with renewed fervor, using it to distance himself from both women. Late office nights became his sanctuary, a neutral ground to evade the truth of his actions. Karen, debilitated by treatments and centered on recovery, initially ascribed Jaden's absences to job demands and her illness stress. She relied heavily on her sister Imogen and a tight circle of friends who gathered around her during this trying period. They offered the emotional sustenance seemingly absent from her husband, though none dared express their worries about Jaden's conduct. Concurrently, Viviana chafed at their relationship's constraints, pushing Jaden for more time and focus, implying a shared future. Jaden, unable to fully dedicate but reluctant to release her, appeased her with vows of a shared holiday once home life stabilized. As Karen's treatment advanced, strain weighed on the entire family. Penelope, now 12, retreated into sullenness, grappling with her mother's illness and her father's perpetual absences. 9-year-old Atticus developed anxiety, clinging to Karen and dissolving into tears at minor triggers. Their once joyful home morphed into a realm of tension and unvoiced grievances. Friends and neighbors noted the shift in the Hartwells' dynamics. Rumors circulated at school gatherings and neighborhood events. Some pondered the impact of Karen's illness, while others suspected marital discord. Jaden's co-worker, Dominic Fea, had spotted him with Viviana at a distant restaurant, but held his tongue, unwilling to exacerbate family strife. As summer neared, Jaden teetered on an ever more precarious tightrope. His facades at work, home, and with Viviana began to crumble. He grew irritable, unfocused, and prone to mood shifts. Karen, despite her frailty, sensed something amiss but lacked the strength to confront him directly. A breaking point loomed, poised to strike in an unforeseen manner. While plotting his escape with Viviana, Jaden remained oblivious that his meticulously built house of cards was about to collapse. As July 2023 arrived, blanketing the city in a heatwave, Jaden Hartwell made a choice that would indelibly alter his life and those around him. With Karen's chemotherapy slated to continue all summer, Jaden declared a business trip necessity to seal a crucial deal in the Cayman Islands. Karen, pallid and spent from her latest treatment round, meekly acknowledged the news. Too depleted to question the trip's timing or importance, she merely asked him to check in regularly with her and the children. Guilt gnawed at Jaden as he gazed at his wife, yet it failed to dissuade him. Truthfully, no business deal awaited him. He had orchestrated a week-long romantic escape with Viviana, leveraging his connections to secure a lavish private villa on a secluded shore. As he packed, tucking gifts for Viviana amidst his belongings, he justified his actions, convincing himself that he merited this respite, that months of stress warranted some joy. Upon reaching their tropical haven, Jaden and Viviana cast caution aside. Days were spent basking on the beach, savoring cocktails and indulging in opulent meals. Nights brimmed with ardor, both delighting in their newfound liberty to be together openly. Jaden relegated thoughts of Karen and his children to the recesses of his mind, fully absorbing himself in the dream of a life with Viviana. Meanwhile, Karen's health deteriorated. Her latest treatment's side effects struck harshly, leaving her confined to bed with fever. Imogen temporarily moved in to assist with the children and Karen's care, growing increasingly exasperated by Jaden's absence. Repeated attempts to reach him proved futile. Unwittingly, Penelope initiated the chain of events that would unveil Jaden's deception. Distressed about her mother and angered by her father's absence, she used the emergency credit card Jaden had provided to order flowers for Karen. Upon its decline, she called customer service, impersonating Karen to probe recent transactions. The representative, deceived, disclosed charges from the Cayman Islands, upscale restaurants, elite boutiques, and a jewelry store. Confused and distraught, Penelope confided in her Aunt Imogen. With suspicions confirmed, Imogen resolved to act. She engaged a private investigator who swiftly exposed the truth behind Jaden's business trip and his ongoing liaison with Viviana. Equipped with this intelligence and evidence, Imogen sat Karen down to divulge the extent of her husband's infidelity. With tender words yet steadfast candor, she presented the investigator's findings. Images of Jaden and Viviana together in the Cayman Islands, records of lavish expenditures and time-stamped footage of their villa comings and goings. Karen, stunned, listened in silence, her fingers gripping her chair's arm tightly as Jaden's deceit unraveled. A wave of emotions surged: shock, fury, mortification, and ultimately, iron resolve. Once Imogen finished, Karen paused, then asked with a steadier voice than she felt, "What now?" Imogen, relieved her sister hadn't crumbled, responded, "Whatever you choose, I'm with you, no matter what." In that moment, with her sister's staunch support, and the brutal truth exposed, Karen began plotting her retribution. She refused to let cancer or her husband's treachery dictate her life. Instead, she would seize control and secure her future on her terms. As Karen grappled with Jaden's infidelity, a shift occurred within her. Initial shock and heartache swiftly morphed into icy, calculated wrath. Though physically frail, Karen's mind honed with determination. She realized that while cancer menaced her life, Jaden had opted to demolish their union. In the night's quiet, as her children slept and Imogen stood guard, Karen devised her strategy. She refused to be a casualty, not of cancer, nor of her husband's deception. With newfound clarity, Karen resolved to command her destiny, beginning with the financial stability Jaden had so recklessly endangered. Come morning, Karen reached out to Ezra Cruz, a cunning divorce lawyer renowned for his unyielding approach to prominent cases. In a confidential meeting, Ezra outlined Karen's choices, explaining she had a robust case for a favorable settlement. However, Karen had different plans. With Ezra's hesitant counsel and Imogen's steadfast backing, Karen initiated her scheme. Karen commenced by painstakingly chronicling Jaden's infidelity and his desertion during her sickness. She then reached out to her former art world associates, discreetly exploring swift, private sales for several prized pieces from their collection. The most pivotal and hazardous aspect of her scheme involved their shared assets. Using her power of attorney, granted by Jaden years prior for emergencies, Karen initiated the liquidation of their accounts. She labored relentlessly, making strategic moves to transform their investments into cash without triggering immediate suspicion. Driven by a blend of justified fury and fresh resolve to safeguard her children's future, Karen established new accounts in her name alone, transferring funds with precision. Their Michigan vacation home was quietly listed and sold to a cash buyer within days. Throughout this flurry of activity, Karen outwardly appeared as a woman devoted solely to her health. She persisted with her treatments, attended support groups, and even sustained a normal routine for Penelope and Atticus. Only Imogen knew the full scope of Karen's actions, acting as both confidant and ally in her sister's audacious plan. As days passed and Jaden's return loomed, Karen felt a somber contentment. She had reclaimed control in the most powerful way imaginable. All that remained was to await the man who had deceived her and confront him with the repercussions of his choices. On a sunlit Saturday afternoon in late July, Jaden Hartwell returned from his Cayman Island business trip, bronzed and at ease. Pulling into their Riverton Mansion's driveway, a pang of guilt struck him, aware he'd need to resume his role as dedicated spouse and father. Little did he know, his intricately crafted double life was about to detonate. Stepping into the unusually silent house, Jaden called for Karen and the children. The stillness unnerved him. Entering the kitchen, he found a thick manila envelope on the counter, bearing his name in Karen's refined handwriting. With mounting apprehension, Jaden opened it. Inside lay divorce papers and a letter from Karen, detailing her awareness of his affair and his absence during her cancer battle. The letter's closing paragraph notified him that she had liquidated their joint assets, claiming what she deemed her just share after years of bolstering his career and nurturing their family. In mounting alarm, Jaden hurried to his home office, attempting to access their online banking accounts. Denied entry. His investment manager, once reached, revealed that most of their portfolio had been liquidated over the past week. Their vacation home sold, their valuable art collection vanished. As the gravity of his situation dawned, Jaden collapsed into his leather office chair, his mind spinning. His phone buzzed with a message from Viviana, inquiring about their upcoming weekend plans. Jaden gazed at the screen, the life he once desired now appearing vacuous and erroneous amidst his profound losses. Suddenly, the front door opened. Footsteps, too heavy to be Karen's, approached his office. The door swung open, revealing Imogen, her face etched with icy rage. She's here, Jaden comprehended, to ensure he grasped the full extent of his errors and the repercussions that were merely starting to unfurl. Special Agent Vega of the FBI's white-collar crime unit was tasked with investigating the case. Her team commenced the meticulous process of tracing the Hartwell's asset movements, searching for signs of fraud or money laundering. They discovered an intricate web of transactions, all scrupulously documented and, to their astonishment, entirely lawful. Karen's use of her power of attorney was within her rights, and she had ensured her actions remained just within legal bounds. However, the investigation illuminated some dubious financial practices by Jaden. His expense accounts showed a pattern of extravagant spending extending far beyond his trip with Viviana. There were irregular cash withdrawals, undeclared gifts, and hints of attempts to conceal assets offshore. As Agent Vega delved deeper, she exposed links between Jaden and several firms recently scrutinized for insider trading. Though not directly implicated, evidence suggested Jaden had teetered on the edge of ethical boundaries in his professional conduct. In the spring of 2024, nearly a year post the Hartwell family's collapse, the case finally proceeded to trial. Jaden's attorneys portrayed Karen as a vengeful woman who had overreacted to a simple transgression, illegally seizing assets in a fit of jealous fury. They contended that her actions had not only devastated Jaden's life, but also negatively affected their children and potentially jeopardized client funds at his firm. Karen's team, spearheaded by the incisive Cruz, systematically deconstructed this portrayal. They presented proof of Jaden's prolonged affair, his negligence during Karen's cancer battle, and the trail of his own financial wrongdoings. Witnesses, including Imogen and several of Jaden's ex-colleagues, attested to his unpredictable conduct and ethical slip-ups, preceding the revelation of his infidelity. The most condemning testimony came from Viviana Reese, who, in return for immunity, exposed the full scope of her relationship with Jaden, including his vows to abandon Karen and his dismissive remarks about his wife's sickness. As the trial unfolded, it grew evident that the case had transcended a mere divorce proceeding. The judge, compelled to evaluate the intricacies, had to assess not just the marriage's dissolution, but also the potential criminal facets of Jaden's financial activities. Following weeks of dramatic testimonies and adept legal tactics, the court readied to deliver its judgment. Jaden was convicted of multiple financial offenses and sentenced to 3 years in a minimum security prison.